So the next thing I'm going to do is this rear leaf sight right here. I'm actually going to drive the pin out, remove this, and then take one of these replacement rear sight assemblies, and I'm going to fit it to the inside of this, and then add a red dot like this, simply just to try it out. I'm not going to make any permanent modifications to this gun at all. I'm not going to wreck anything, bang anything, smash anything. I'm going to very carefully remove this rear sight, and I'm going to install this, and I'm actually making a custom pin for the inside that'll fit in here. And I'm saving all my old parts and putting it back to original condition when I'm done playing with this red dot. The reason being, my eyes are not what they used to be, and I'm really having a hard time with the regular sight on this gun consistently. I also think the gun really needs to be tweaked a little bit as far as I'm going to bed it in cork and things like that to try and get... I've already actually put bedding in under here, but I'm going to show you that on film, how I did it and all that. And then take it to the range with some hand loads, some lead hand loads, and see if I can get this thing to shoot better than I can shoot it right now. But I'm not making any permanent modifications, and I'm not doing anything that will hurt the gun in any way. Because I really love the gun the way it is, and feel like I am a steward of this piece of Cold War history, and I want to be a good steward. So the next thing I need to do is drive out this pin right here. And to do so, I'm going to use this pin punch and carefully line this up, give it a good tap, and hopefully catch this on camera in a way that you guys can actually see it happen. It's a little tight in here for the camera work, and I don't have a real good solid bench to work on. There we go. That actually worked. I don't know if you can see it. It's slightly recessed. I'm going to give it another tap. And what happens is, underneath here there's a spring steel leaf pushing up on the bottom of this. So this is going to kind of pop off of here. And I'll show you all that once I get this next little piece through. And I'm going to see... Yeah, let me get a smaller pin punch. I'll be right back. Okay, so I didn't have a tiny enough pin punch that I could find, but I took this hex key. I'm sure you can see. It's tiny enough to get in there, and give it a little tap, and then push it. And now the pin is starting to come out. I'm going to give it another little tap. And it has popped all the way out. So, here's the pin. Hold on, let me see if I can... Here's the pin. It popped out. The hex key is now all the way through. So I'm going to prop it back up and pull this out and show you what's inside of here. Now, if you wanted to take this completely out of the action to do this, you could. But I've chosen not to, simply because I've done this sort of thing a couple times and I know that it'll come apart. So now, we remove this part of the sight, and if you look in here, this silvery part, that's actually a spring steel leaf spring, a little spring in there, a little leaf. That there's a dimple right there that corresponds with a small divot inside this metal piece that goes onto the barrel, and we're going to need to drive that forward slightly to pop this out. Hopefully you'll be able to see this on film. Now I just want to push this forward slightly, so I'm going to just give it a little tap, just like that. Beautiful. I'm glad it came out like that. So this is the piece I was talking about. Has that little dimple. It fits in right there in a little hole. I'm going to wipe this off to get some of the old cosmoline and grease off of it and go into the next step. Okay, so there's the spring. Here's the rear sight with the slider. Here's the pin that held it all in place. Now I'm going to take my pin, and if you look at it, one side is a little bit more tapered than the other, one is more blunt than the other, and it fits in here better one way than the other. So the tapered side would go back in here, and the thicker side that's more blunt would end up on the outside of the right side. But I'm going to save these pieces off to the side in a bag. And what I've been working on is making a pin that will end up holding my other rear sight in place here. And it's a little tight, but it needs to be, because this is the sort of rear sight attachment they sell on eBay, Amazon, things like that. It's basically just an aluminum. They're usually around 10 bucks, 12 bucks. This one was 10 bucks. And they come, a certain generic size. And then to really get them to fit right, you need to kind of hand fit them. Now I started sanding the bottom of this one, but I haven't quite fit it yet. And I also took the threaded part here and went into it with a file to get rid of the threads, because I don't want to use the little tiny cap screws that go in either side of this with it. I don't like them. I don't want them. So I'm making my own pin. I actually already heated this up red hot and quenched it to try and harden it. And my idea is I'm gonna cut it to fit somewhere back by this black mark, and I'll know better in a minute. And this is gonna hold it in place. Okay, it goes on like that. Okay, and then the pin will fit in here like this to hold it on. And again, I have to cut this to fit. And then you adjust these set screws and lock them in with Loctite to kind of hold the whole arrangement tightly back here on the rear sight. It's not an ideal situation. It's probably going to be susceptible to coming loose. I'll know more when I actually try it. I've never used one before. I've never owned one before. I never tried one before. It's a little bit messy, but I'm going to see what it does. Long and short of it is, for $10 for this part and a little bit of work, I really wanted to just try it. And because I'm not making any modifications to the original rifle at all, and I'm saving all my old parts, I can just put it back the way it was when I'm done. So I'm going to go off camera and try to fit this a little better and get a good measure on this pin that I'm going to cut off that's going to end up holding this in place. And I'll come back when I have those things done. So my pin is done. It's not quite as perfect as I wanted, but I had a little trouble. The only thing I had to cut it with was a Dremel tool, and it's not very precision, but it worked. So now I have smoothed the bottom of this and sanded it just to take a little bit of material off, because this hole that's pre-drilled before you get it is a little too far up for lining up with this hole here for me on this gun. It makes the sight cockeyed, like really stick up. It still sticks up a little bit now, but that's okay, because I want a little bit of tension when I put the set screws in the top and tighten them down. That'll help flex it slightly up to try and level it out, because the way it goes in, it's a little bit tipped forward. So I took some material off to bring it down slightly so the hole lines up better. So we're going to see right now how this works, because I haven't really, I sort of dry fit it to get the mark where the cut needed to go. And I made it just slightly too long on purpose, so that I have a little more material to work with. I don't care if it sticks out a little bit. I just want it to work. Yeah, that actually came out pretty good. I don't want to hit it any harder or push it in any farther. I'm almost tempted to tap it back out a bit, but I don't want to make this hole any bigger because I want it to fit the original rod really well. So now I'm going to put blue Loctite on my set screws and install them, and I'm going to do that off camera. This is what the sight looks like, the mount for the sight looks like after putting the set screws in with Loctite. Now I'm going to let it sit for 24 hours so the Loctite hardens up, and when that's done I'm going to take this, it's a Pinty Optic that I got off of Amazon for 30 bucks, and I'm going to use this to mount it. I need to unscrew it a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to slide it on like that, and something like this is where this is going to end up. I'll have to, look at the Optic once I know my blue Loctite is hardened, and then I will take this thing to the range and see if we can hit some targets with it. But that's where it sits right now. So I'll be back when it's time to mount this on there. So this is what it looks like mounted, and once I get some hand loads developed, I'm going to take it to the range and see if I can make it perform. I'm going to do a video on load development at some point, and I'm also going to do a disassembly of the rifle at some point. So far, so good. Thanks for sticking around to see how I mounted this thing, and stay tuned for more. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.